think he's totally worth that. You know what I mean? I know where the NFL fan brain goes. Amon-Ra St. Brown is like a fantasy football superstar. But while everybody's over here stuck in but what's he worth to the team? All right. Amon-Ra St. Brown to his team versus Brandon Ayuk to his team. I'd argue that's pretty similar. Pretty similar. And if you just want to talk about talent and numbers and all of that, you can find a bunch of numbers that go in both directions there. I know Amon-Ra's got way more targets and catches.
Right.
But sometimes I think that's actually a compliment for Brandon. For Brandon to be where he was this year on the yardage list,
right,
and have so many fewer targets is a compliment to the Niners offense. It's also a compliment to Brandon, though.
For sure.
100%.
And he was, looking at it now, he was 36th in the league in targets, and Amon-Ra was 5th. And in yardage, Brandon Ayuk was 7th. Amon-Ra was 3rd.
Yeah, there you go.
So Amon-Ra needed a lot more targets and a lot more catches to get to the yards, and he wound up with only 160 more yards than Brandon Ayuk did, and he wound up with 44 more catches than Brandon Ayuk. So he needed 44 more catches to accumulate 150 more yards, basically.
They both play for dynamic offenses who use them as their top target. Use them as their top target. And so, yeah, I do find them pretty similar. It's interesting here. Can I read a couple of text messages from our text line to you? One just came in from 925. Says, nope, Amon-Ra is super consistent. I bet you, sir, play fantasy football. I did too. Who'd Amon-Ra St. Brown play for in the 95-7 The Game Fantasy League this year?
He played for you, Mark.
He sure did.
You drafted him either as your first pick or your second because you were at the end of the round, so you had the bop-bop. You had the wraparound.
Pow-pow.
And you did a pow-pow. You did a couple pow-pows.
I have to go back and look at the draft and see if he was he was not my first rounder.
We were a 12-team league, is that right? I think we're picking 12th.
What app did we use? Did we use Yahoo?
Yes,
yeah,
Yahoo.
for sure.
Okay. Pretty sure it was a 14-team league.
14-team league, that's right.
That's true.
Because I was in 14th for a while there. I rallied. Fell short.
Oh,
Grandy, you broke my heart, Grandy. You beat me by like 0.7 or something.
And then Willard broke my heart.
Yeah, I'll say.
You're damn right I did. Hang on.
Should have been me.
It wasn't me.
Hang on. I'm trying to find a way to... No.
I'm trying to find my app.
I'm trying to log in here.
Whatever. I'll find it. You talk, I'll look.
I can't
it's
even
better that way.
Anyway, it doesn't matter.
That's what the show does anyway.
Yeah, I'll figure out how we did it. But yeah, like Brandon Ayuk was also super consistent. Yep. You don't go for 1,300 yards if you're not super consistent. He was fantastic. He wasn't as consistent in fantasy because there were games where he only gets 3 or 4 catches.
Right.
Because that's the way the Niners spread things around.
And that's where I think Amon-Ra is maybe more valuable because I'm looking at just the catches for the Niners, and you had 75, 67, 65, and 60. Those are your 4 big targets by catch for the Niners. Ayuk 75, McCaffrey 67, Kittle 65, Debo 60, which is to say that they spread the thing around here in San Francisco, Mark.
Yeah, they absolutely do. And so I thought he was completely consistent. And then there was this one from a listener in 510. Mark, you act like the running back market is set by God or something. It's set by the teams that are willing to pay. If Christian is that valuable to the 49ers, then they can pay him according to their assessment of that value and his leverage with the team. You got one part right when you use the word leverage at the end. It's not set by God, although some people think he is. His name is Jerry Jones. It is set by God. It's set by the market itself. It's set by the NFL. It's set by the other running backs. It's set by the fact that NFL teams, through years of data, have realized that as running backs approach 30, it largely does not make sense for them to sign a running back to a big second deal. And a lot of you are asking for Christian to get a third deal. This is his second deal. He's on it right now, and he's turning 28 next month, and he's got 2 more years on his deal. And the bottom line is NFL teams do not pay guys based on that. Assessment to value to team? No. I'm sorry, they do not pay people based on assessment to value to the team. They pay them based on, what do we got to pay this guy?
It's assessment to value to market.
There you go.
Is what it really is.
And
that's why he's at the top of the market.
And Christian is, I will admit to you, freely, he is absolutely not being paid based on his value to the team. Hard part is he never will be. Because that's not what has been set in the NFL with running backs. You just watched the New York Giants flick Saquon Barkley off the team. They're like, dude, whatever. Raiders flicked Josh Jacobs off the team. Replaceable. I mean, that's what they think.
Right.
And those guys both held out and made a big deal out of it. And what they end up getting out of it? Like an extra $500,000.
Right.
They got next to nothing, and both of them showed up and played last year. Why? They're they're two of the best top 5 guys out there. Why'd they show up and play? Why would they do that? Because that's the going rate. That's the going rate. And then Saquon got a, quote, big, huge deal with the Eagles, and guess what? It's still less than what McCaffrey is getting. So, I realize what this sounds like 100%. I love Christian McCaffrey. He's nobody's more important to the 49ers than Christian McCaffrey. But the 49ers are not supposed to go show up to work and start paying people because they think they're really cool. It's unfortunately not the way I wish it was.
Right.
I wish all of us in life were just like, my God, our company looks at everything we do and they're like, you're incredible. You're incredible. So let's just pay you more. Let's pay you more because we think you're so great at your job. I know that everyone else who does your job gets paid down here. Let's give you 3 times that because we think you're just crushing it. Nobody has to do that and no one will.
It's not 3 times that. It's just making him paid more commensurate with what he does to the team. And you mentioned Saquon Barkley, and that's an interesting comp, but he's not even close to as important as Christian McCaffrey. And so, yes, the market is determined by the position, and the player gets paid based on what that position determines as far as the marketplace goes. But Christian McCaffrey is a unique player, and he is one who should not be, and I know that he is, dictated by the market for his position. You look at what Debo makes, and Debo makes almost twice as much this year as Christian McCaffrey makes. And McCaffrey's more important to this team than Debo Samuel.
No doubt.
And yet, because Debo happens to be a wide receiver, he gets double the money that McCaffrey makes. If I'm McCaffrey, I'm looking at the Debo deal and saying, I'm more important to you than Debo, and it's not even close. He's every bit the receiver that Debo is. He has more catches than Debo Samuel. He plays more games than Debo Samuel, let alone the running that he does, which is better than Debo Samuel.
If Joel Siegel, who is Christian's agent, said that in the meeting, Lynch gets up and walks out. Parag's like, this is just completely irrelevant. You're more important than Debo? What are we even talking about?
It's a fact. I mean, he doesn't even have to say that because it's evident.
Nor should he, because it's irrelevant. It can be a fact all you want. He could sell more jerseys. They could be like, great.
Well, it's also the VORP factor, the value over replacement player. You can replace Debo, and you may have already done that. You can't replace Christian McCaffrey. Good luck trying.
Fair.
And apologies to Isaac Guerrero and Elijah Mitchell, who may or may not even be on the squad this year. And TDP, you drafted him, and he couldn't even crack the roster.
I literally do not argue any of the stuff you're saying.
Yeah.
I simply say, but it's not relevant in a contractual conversation for Christian. Tough stuff. I hate this for him. I hate it for a lot of NFL players. I really hate it for running backs. We've talked about this a lot as an industry over the last 2 years.
Yep.
It's crazy what's happened. It's not fair. It's not even anywhere near fair. And Christian was one of the guys who was very public about it. He spoke on behalf of the other running backs out there as the highest paid guy. He's like, this is criminal. And it completely is. Put it on the list of the 1,000 other criminal things in the NFL, starting with turf. I mean, honestly.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's not a fair business. So therefore, going into a room and crying fair, I don't know if it goes anywhere.
No, and you don't have the ability to do that, and Christian McCaffrey's not doing that, and we're not trying to pretend that he is doing that because he's really not. But if I'm McCaffrey and I'm going into this cycle and it's May and there's OTAs, why would I show up if I'm feeling some kind of way? And I'm not saying that he is. We don't know how he's feeling. Maybe he is out there doing cake tastings and shopping for tuxedos and, getting ready for his nuptials with Olivia Culpo. We don't know what he's doing, but if I'm in his spot and I'm looking at the salaries of my teammates and I'm looking at what I mean to this team versus other guys, and you never want to count other people's pockets.
Yeah, the teammates
and I'm not
thing
saying
is
he's
tough.
doing it.
That's tough.
But all the talk this offseason is about Brandon's going to get that bag. Ayuk's going to get that bag. And you see what Amon-Ra got. And now Brandon's thinking, all right, I'll take Amon-Ra's money and maybe just a sprinkle more. And McCaffrey's looking at his deal and thinking, geez, I'm going to be making half of what he makes. I'm making half what Debo makes.
It's his turn. And he plays a different position. Like if you were,
and that's the part that I have a hard time with.
As do I. But it also is just the way it works. Like, I mean, if we're going to do that, if you're going to look at your teammates, I think what you have to do and what agents do is look at what's going on around the league at your position. If you want to look at teammates, my God, the jealousy toward quarterbacks would be out of control. I mean, Tom Brady made a career out of basically taking a little bit less so that there was help around him, but not every quarterback does that. Do you think there's jealousy there? You know what I mean? Does Travis Kelce look at Patrick Mahomes' contract and go, gosh, I'm kind of the number one thing on the receiving end of all the stuff you do. Why do you make 4 times what I make or more? I don't even know what the difference is there. But, I mean, Justin Herbert, who's never won a playoff game, is making $55 or $57 million a year or something like that. And Joey Bosa is making half that. Austin Eckler's kicked off the team and makes $3 million for the Commanders.
Right.
If you look at teammates, you're just going to have a hard time.
I get that, but you are on a team where it really is positionless football in many ways. Because if you're McCaffrey, and again, I'm not saying he's in a contract battle because he's not. He's got 2 more years left on his deal, but I'm looking at it and saying, let's look at how many times I line up in the slot, how many times I line up out wide, how many times they throw me the ball, how many times I'm used as a blocker. It's not like he's your classic running back. This is not Derrick Henry, where Derrick Henry, I don't know how many catches he had last year, but I would bet it's fewer than 10.
Yeah, but he's not.
This guy it's positionless football.
Yeah, but Kamara's no different. Like in terms of what his skill set
Brees Hall is the other one who had more catches than him last year.
Okay, so like, and those guys are both making less, and I'm not saying they're anywhere near as good, but the larger point for this that I keep hearing from people is that, well, the 49ers are different because they got a lot of good players and it's positionless and they give the ball to Christian more than most other teams. And I'm sitting here going, dude, like, I hear you, but do you honestly think the 49ers can operate that way? They should go into business meetings and be like, look, I know that this is what running backs make around the league, but since we're so good and because we're positionless, we're going to blow those numbers up and just pay everybody more. They're not going to operate that way. They can't. They shouldn't. I don't know why anyone would even ask them to do that. Christian McCaffrey's a running back.
Right.
He's a running back. He's the best one.
I mean,
but he's a running back. That's what he does.
He's a receiver. I mean, he's a receiving back, and you can
so
put whatever labels disable, Mark. So you can label him however you want. If I'm representing him and I'm going into next year, not this year, but next year, and he's on this same deal, then we're going to have a real conversation about, them doing a little bit more to make him feel like he is going to be a part of their future, because he does have a lot of life left in him. Just because he's coming up on he'll be 28 this season. Yeah, he was born in January, so he will be 29 in the playoffs this upcoming year. And if I'm...
No, I think he's 28 next month.
Oh, yeah. I was looking at Debo's age. So, anyway, if I'm him, I'm thinking that I still have more life left in me than just the end of this contract.
Absolutely.
2 more years.
Absolutely. But again, what I keep feeling when we're having this conversation is that there's a bunch of stuff out there that the Niners should pay Christian, even though they don't have to, because because he's amazing. And it's like, I don't know why they would do that. They don't have to do that.
No, they don't have to.
Just because, every time you bring up the receiver thing, I go, okay. This discussion has happened a bunch. Debo, Jimmy Graham, all kinds of guys do all multifaceted approaches to their position, and an agent is not going. They're not going to get $1 for that. You're not going to get $1 for the fact that Christian McCaffrey does well as a receiver. You just aren't. There's no history for that at all. I wish there was. Christian takes so many hits. I'd love it if he were the highest paid player in the game. But
I wonder about that part of it because Debo got what he got. Do you think that was only based on him as a wide receiver?
Remember the year he was coming off of? He was one of the top wide receivers in the game. He went for 1,300 yards.
Right. And
ran the ball a lot.
And now he's in a spot where everyone's talking about this maybe being the last year because he didn't live up to the contract so far.
That's part of it. It's also just where it is in the life of that deal. It's something that they can get out from under coming up. And when they signed that deal, they had no idea that they were 2 years away from a quarterback needing north of $50 million.
Right.
They didn't know that then. Now they do. So now you got to start pivoting. And we actually don't even know that they're going to do that. We're all assuming they're going to cut Debo Samuel next year. I don't know that that's the way it's going to go.
Yeah, who knows? Part of that will be determined by Ricky Pearsall and what he does. But you mentioned the Debo year, 5th in the league in yardage that year. Very Ayukian as far as the kind of year he had. He had 1,405 yards, 6 touchdowns, 77 catches, very similar to what Brandon Ayuk did this year. And he got paid, and Debo has been, he's been good.
He's been good.
He's been good. He hasn't been necessarily super durable.
Not as overwhelming.
Hasn't had 1,405 yards
by the way,
in the season.
There's another thing. You've talked a couple times about what Christian has left. You said at one point about a half hour ago he's showing no signs of slowing down. They never do.
Right. And he's had injuries too.
It happens overnight.
Yep.
How many times have we seen it in the NFL where a guy looks amazing in February and comes back in October or September and you're just like, whoa. What happened to his legs? Happened to Ezekiel Elliott right after he signed his new deal. And you can look to Zeke why so many teams are terrified of this idea that we're talking about. So many teams are scared of signing running backs to big deals because in history, especially recent history, when this has happened, it has really hurt teams. Big time. So nobody wants to do it anymore. They just want to cycle through. And they can get guys on a shorter deal. Look what the Packers just did this offseason. Aaron Jones was running roughshod over the 49ers in the playoffs. That was their last game.
Yeah.
And as soon as they got to the offseason, they're like, see you, bro. You're gone. We can get Josh Jacobs to come in here. He's younger. And at the top of the market, what did he get? He got 1 year guaranteed.
Yeah.
It's a multi-year deal, but 1 year is guaranteed. That's all he could get. So that's the market. I hear every single one of you who says Christian McCaffrey's a wide receiver. Here's the response. No, he's not. He can play like one all he wants. He's not. Says RB right next to his name. Start him at wide receiver in your fantasy league. You get an error message. He's not a wide receiver.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter what he does on the field. He's a running back and will get paid like one.
Debo Samuel, 890 yards this past year.
Yep.
Receiving.
Yep.
So down almost 550 yards from his contract year.
No doubt. No doubt. He is probably I hate using this word because I like the player.
No, and I like the pick when they made it.
He's overpaid.
Yeah.
He's overpaid. Look at the names that are right next to him and are any of them number 2 receivers?
Jordan Addison. 911 yards receiving.
No, I'm talking about money.
Oh, I thought you were talking about numbers.
Next to Debo on the money list.
Oh.
You got any other number 2 receivers?
I don't think so.
Making $24, $25 million a year.
Probably not.
No, that's all the DK Metcalfs and the A.J. Browns and the Tyreek Hills and now the Amon-Ra St. Brown.
Even Michael Pittman Jr., he's a one.
These are all number 1s.
Yeah.
Debo's not even a number 1. So you want to know why the 49ers are rumors that they're going to move on from him after the year, depending on how the year goes, obviously.
Of course.
But I'm paying a number 2. I'm paying number 2 wide receiver $25 million a year or whatever he's making.